Have you ever looked at the man who once felt like your entire world, the one who chased you with passion, adored your smallest quirks, and couldn't stop listening when you spoke and thought, when did he start to fade away? It's one of the hardest questions a woman can face, and it's rarely just about love. It's about confidence, self-worth, psychology, and the quiet attachment patterns that shape every connection we build. Men don't suddenly wake up and pull away. Their distance is often a coded message, a quiet signal that something underneath the relationship has begun to shift. And unless that message is understood in time, the silence between you only grows louder. So stay with me until the end, because today we're peeling back the layers of psychology to uncover 8 powerful reasons why men grow distant from the women they love. And more importantly, how that distance can become the doorway back to closeness. But first, be honest with yourself. Have you ever felt your partner emotionally slipping away while sitting right next to you? If that hits home, drop a yes in the comments. I see and read everyone. Picture this. You're sitting across the dinner table from a man who once looked at you like you were his entire universe. His eyes used to light up at your laughter. His voice softened when you spoke. Now, his gaze lingers on his phone. His silence fills the room heavier than any words could. And in that quiet, you feel something sacred unraveling, not in an explosion, but in a slow, invisible fade. What happened? Did love die? Or did something more subtle begin to decay? A psychological connection that was never truly seen until it started slipping away. That's the paradox. A man can still be there, but emotionally he's gone. His presence becomes a shadow of what it once was. The truth is, men often withdraw not because they stop loving, but because they stop feeling seen. This isn't trivial. It cuts to the very core of human need. A man thrives when he feels valued, when his presence counts, when even his smallest efforts are noticed. When that acknowledgement fades, he starts to feel invisible. And invisibility for a man is emotional poison. He may not have the words for it, but you'll see it in the slump of his shoulders, the distance in his eyes, and the silence between your conversations. Here's where feminine energy becomes the unseen healer. True feminine energy isn't weakness, it's emotional magnetism. It's the gentle power that makes a man feel safe enough to drop his armor. But when that energy turns critical instead of compassionate, when affection becomes conditional, the relationship begins to feel like emotional exile. And here's the cruel twist. The more distant he grows, the more a woman tries to pull him back through questioning, chasing, demanding clarity. But those very efforts often widen the gap. They ignite a toxic dance of pursuit and retreat, where love starts to feel like a contest rather than a connection. It doesn't take much for that dance to begin a cold glance after an argument, a forgotten appreciation, a moment of dismissal. These small fractures whisper a brutal message. You're not enough. Over time, those whispers become walls. And before you know it, he's no longer staying late at work because he's busy. He's staying late because it's the only place he still feels seen. He starts spending more time in hobbies, distractions, and fleeting escapes, anywhere but in the space that once felt like home. But beneath that avoidance lies a deeper truth, one most people would rather not face. The distance isn't always about the present. It often echoes from the past. Many men carry unhealed wounds from childhood, years, where their emotions were dismissed, mocked, or left unseen. When those buried memories are stirred in marriage by criticism, neglect, or coldness, they don't just pull away from their partner. They retreat from themselves. The withdrawal isn't always conscious. It's a defense mechanism, a silent slide into emotional numbness. And yet, if you listen closely, even that numbness whispers a message. It's a plea for safety, for recognition, for the revival of emotional sanctuary. Beneath the armor, he's longing for a woman who remembers her own power. The power not of control or perfection, but of presence. A high-value woman is not defined by material status or social display, but by her ability to rekindle the sacred intimacy that once made him feel alive. She understands that a single look of genuine admiration can dissolve years of resentment, that a small act of warmth can break through the walls of silence he's built to survive. So when the man you love begins to withdraw, when his laughter fades, when his eyes look past you, how do you respond? Do you tighten your grip, raise your voice, and demand what's missing? Or do you soften into the art of reconnection, the quiet grace of feminine energy that invites him out of hiding? That's the real question. And it's rarely an easy one, because healing love requires self-reflection. It asks you to notice where daily appreciation has been replaced with quiet criticism, where gratitude has given way to expectation. Even more confronting, it forces you to look inward at your own need to be seen. Because if you feel invisible in his eyes, if your worth feels unacknowledged, then both Hopen of you are living the same silent hunger. Two souls starving for recognition, each waiting for the other to flee, and moves on. To her, that moment cuts deep, not because he didn't see her, but because she no longer feels radiant enough to be seen. And in that single instant, a haunting truth surfaces. It's not just he who's stopped noticing her, it's she who's forgotten to notice herself. When confidence fades, when self-worth quietly erodes, a relationship doesn't explode, it collapses from within, silently, like a house whose foundation has begun to rot. Men are highly attuned to the emotional frequency of the women they love. They may not articulate it, but they feel it, viscerally. When a woman stands rooted in her own value, her energy becomes magnetic. Her warmth, curiosity, and confidence awaken something primal in him. He feels wanted, admired, alive. But when that energy dims, when her spirit begins to doubt its own worth, he feels that absence like a void. And here lies the paradox. The more she leans on him to fill that void, the further he drifts, because no man can carry the full weight of another person's identity. Left unchecked, that dynamic morphs into something dangerously close to narcissistic polarity, one partner begging for constant validation while the other retreats into silence. Think back to the beginning. She radiated light, her laughter was effortless, her curiosity genuine, her presence intoxicating. That light wasn't performance, it was alignment. But over time, stress, comparison, and the quiet ache of unresolved wounds begin to dim that inner glow. Maybe it's the endless scrolling through curated images of women who seem younger, slimmer, more flawless. Maybe it's the years of subtle neglect, a sigh instead of a compliment, a distracted glance instead of connection. Each tiny dismissal plants a whisper in her mind, "You're not enough." And little by little, her confidence fades, and with it, the magnetic energy that once drew him near begins to wane. He doesn't drift away to be cruel. He drifts because something vital in the emotional current has weakened. What once felt alive now feels uncertain, and that uncertainty quietly builds walls between them. And this is where the emotional trap tightens. The moment she senses his distance, instinct tells her to fight for closeness. She leans in harder, asks more, questions, seeks reassurance, tries to decode every silence. But these efforts, born of fear, often backfire. Instead of inviting him closer, they push him further. He begins to feel watched, evaluated, even suffocated. And the more cornered he feels, the more he craves escape. It's the classic dance of pursuit and retreat. One partner reaches out in desperation, the other retreats in self-protection. Without awareness, love becomes a tug of war between anxiety and avoidance, two hearts aching for safety, yet triggering the opposite in each other. At the heart of it all lies self-worth. A woman who is anchored in her worth doesn't panic at the first wave of distance. She doesn't crumble under silence, nor does she chase validation like air. She pauses, breathes, and returns to herself. She embodies what some call the high-value woman, not because of beauty, status, or perfection, but because she knows her worth isn't up for negotiation. Her composure becomes magnetic. Her calm presence says, "I am enough, even in your silence." Men sense this immediately. It's not about dominance, it's about emotional safety. A man feels safer beside a woman who doesn't unravel when he retreats, because true safety is born from stability, not desperation. But cultivating stability isn't easy when your past still bleeds through the present. Some women carry deep scars of abandonment and betrayal, echoes of being unseen, unheard, unloved. So when their partner grows distant, the old pain awakens like a ghost whispering, "See, you were never enough. You never will be." And in that moment, she's no longer reacting to him. She's reacting to every heartbreak she's ever known. So the question becomes, how much of this distance belongs to him and how much belongs to the wounds still echoing inside you? Without facing that truth, every attempt at reconnection becomes another reenactment of old pain wearing a new face. And so we return to the mirror. The reflection staring back is not just about beauty or age, it's about value. Do you still see yourself as the woman who brings light into a room? The one whose laughter softens walls, whose presence breathes warmth into silence? Or have you surrendered your sense of worth to the unpredictable tides of his attention? Because when confidence erodes, it doesn't just dim attraction, it dissolves the foundation of connection itself. And perhaps the most haunting truth of all is this: if you don't reclaim that inner worth, the distance won't end with him. It will seep quietly into every relationship, every dream, every part of you that once felt alive, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you've become invisible even for yourself. Picture this: a woman reaches for her husband's hand in bed, craving closeness. He shifts slightly away, not in anger, not even in rejection, just an unconscious turning that leaves her heart aching. Why do I always seem to want more than he does? She wonders. Why does my love feel like too much? That single moment is a window into one of the most profound psychological patterns in relationships. Attachment styles, the invisible choreography of closeness and distance, pursuit and retreat, safety and fear. From the very beginning of our lives, before we even know what love means, we are quietly trained in how to connect. The lessons begin long before language, through tone, touch, presence, and absence. If, as a child, you were met with warmth, steadiness, and emotional safety, your nervous system learned that closeness is safe. You grew up with a secure attachment, able to love without fear, to trust without testing. But if you were neglected, criticized, or left alone with your pain, you likely learned that love is unpredictable. It comes and goes without warning, and so you chase it. That's the anxious attachment, where every silence feels like rejection. Presence. She craves more than conversation. She craves emotional resonance, the feeling of being truly met. Without it, loneliness seeps in quietly, a suffocating chill that lingers even when he is physically near. This is the subtle fracture of intimacy. It rarely begins with betrayal or malice. It begins with absence. The small erosions of emotional safety accumulate until the relationship feels hollow. For women whose feminine energy thrives on connection, this absence is devastating. It triggers deep-seated psychological echoes. I'm invisible, my feelings are too much, my needs do not matter. Each whisper chips away at self-worth, and the relationship weakens from the inside. So why do men withdraw? More often than not, it's not indifference, but overwhelm. Men are rarely taught the language of vulnerability. They know how to provide, to solve, to endure, but not how to sit in the raw intensity of a partner's emotions. And so when she reaches for closeness, it can feel like pressure. Instead of leaning in, he steps back. Instead of starving, but in different ways. Too often, women blame themselves. Was I too emotional, too needy, too demanding? But the truth is harsher. Love cannot flourish where emotional safety is absent. Without it, intimacy becomes performance, connection becomes routine, and silence becomes the loudest language in the room. Yet within this shadow lies a doorway to transformation. A high-value woman, anchored in her own worth, learns she cannot outsource her validation. She cannot chase presence. She must cultivate it within herself first. By confronting old wounds, by reclaiming her self-worth, by seeing her emotions as sources of strength rather than weakness, she becomes the foundation of authentic connection. From that grounded place, she extends an invitation, a space where he can choose vulnerability. When he steps into that invitation, the Intimacy that follows is richer than ever, built not on fear, but on truth. But the haunting question remains, what if he never steps in? What if his withdrawal is permanent? How long does she wait in silence, hoping he will return, not just in words, but in presence, devotion, and courage to face real emotional intimacy? And if he never does, what does that say about the bond itself? Is it love or merely the memory of love, a ghost of what once was? It is in that question that countless women lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the man beside them is still present or if he is already gone. So why do men grow distant from their wives? It is rarely one moment, one fault, or one action. It is the gradual erosion of confidence, self-worth, emotional safety, and shared vision. But here is the empowering truth. Just as distance is built step by step, closeness can be rebuilt the same way. Every conscious choice to lead with patience, to reconnect with awareness, to invite rather than blame, becomes a brick in the bridge back to intimacy. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these patterns resonated most with your experience? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is a conversation, not a lecture. And if this video spoke to you, like, share, and subscribe to stay part of these deep dive discussions on relationships, self-worth, and personal growth. Because ultimately, this isn't just about understanding men, it's about understanding yourself, reclaiming your value, and creating a love that is alive, enduring, and unshakable.